Gabby Petito was a young, adventurous soul who had dreams of exploring the world with her fiancé, Brian Laundrie. On what seemed like the trip of a lifetime across America, something went tragically wrong. Gabby disappeared, and the nation watched as a romantic journey turned into a dark and mysterious nightmare. Gabby's case is one that captured the attention of millions. It shed light on toxic relationships, domestic violence, and the dark side of social media's seemingly perfect lives. How could a beautiful and loving young woman go missing in such an age of hyperconnectivity? The discovery of Gabby's body in Wyoming in September 2021 shocked the world, but her story was far from over. With lingering questions about her relationship with Brian Laundrie and his sudden disappearance, her case became a tragic mystery, igniting discussions about mental health, violence, and accountability. Tonight, we dive deep into the Gabby Petito case, exploring the details of her disappearance, the evidence that unraveled her tragic fate, and the investigation that followed. Welcome to Whispers in the Dark. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell to stay up to date on the mysteries and true crime stories we cover. Now, let's step into the heart of one of 2021's most haunting cases, the disappearance and death of Gabby Petito. Gabby Petito was born on March 19, 1999, in Blue Point, Long Island, New York, to Nicole Schmidt and Joseph Petito. Growing up in the small town of Blue Point, Gabby was the oldest of 6 siblings. From a young age, she showed a love for nature, adventure, and creativity. She was known to her friends and family as a free spirit, someone who didn't want to be tied down by the mundane routine of everyday life. Her childhood was filled with laughter, camping trips, and dreams of one day seeing all the beauty the world had to offer. In high school, Gabby was a cheerleader and well liked by her peers. However, as she got older, she became increasingly drawn to the idea of traveling and seeing more of the world outside of her hometown. Gabby's passion for travel only intensified after meeting Brian Laundrie, a fellow Long Island native. The two quickly bonded over their love for the outdoors, camping, and the van life movement, which was gaining popularity on social media. Together, they dreamed of leaving behind the typical 9-to-5 lifestyle and living on the road, visiting national parks, camping under the stars, and sharing their experiences online. In July 2020, Gabby and Brian became engaged, and soon after, they began planning the cross-country van trip that would ultimately change their lives forever. Gabby's enthusiasm for the adventure was evident on her social media, where she shared beautiful images of their travels, scenic landscapes, and moments of joy. But as we now know, the picture-perfect life Gabby portrayed online was hiding a much darker reality. Gabby's dream of a life on the road was finally coming true. In early 2021, she and Brian Laundrie began outfitting a 2012 Ford Transit van to become their home on wheels. The couple meticulously converted the van into a tiny home, complete with a bed, storage, and cooking facilities. Their plan was to travel across the United States, visiting national parks and documenting their journey on Instagram and YouTube. The van life movement, as it came to be known, was growing in popularity, especially on social media platforms. People were fascinated by the idea of minimalism, freedom, and the open road. Gabby and Brian's goal was to join the ranks of influencers who made a living by sharing their experiences and inspiring others to follow in their footsteps. On July 2, 2021, Gabby and Brian set off from Blue Point, New York, in their newly converted van. The journey that followed took them across the country, from the scenic mountains of Colorado to the stunning deserts of Utah. They visited iconic landmarks like Zion National Park and Bryce Canyon, capturing breathtaking images along the way. For Gabby, it seemed like a dream come true. She shared her excitement and adventures with her followers on Instagram, posting photos of beautiful sunsets, rugged mountains, and peaceful campsites. But despite the idyllic images, cracks were beginning to show in her relationship with Brian. Gabby's friends later revealed that her relationship with Brian had been tumultuous 4 months before the trip began. While Gabby was free-spirited and outgoing, Brian was described as more controlling and introverted. The couple had arguments before, but being together 24/7 in a small van only intensified the strain on their relationship. By mid-August 2021, Gabby and Brian were exploring the national parks of Utah. They had visited Arches National Park and were camping in the Moab area. On August 12th, the couple had a public altercation that would be one of the first signs of serious trouble. A concerned witness called 911, reporting a potential domestic dispute between Gabby and Brian. According to the caller, body cam footage from the police stop, later released to the public, showed Gabby in a distressed state, crying uncontrollably as she spoke to the officers. Brian, on the other hand, appeared calm and collected, even laughing at times. Gabby admitted to slapping Brian during their argument, but it was clear from her demeanor that she was overwhelmed and emotional. The officers separated the couple for the night, with Gabby staying in the van and Brian being taken to a hotel. No charges were filed, and the incident was classified as a mental, emotional health break rather than a domestic violence case. The police report mentioned that both Gabby and Brian had mental health issues, and that their arguments had escalated due to stress from their travels. This encounter with law enforcement would later be scrutinized, with many questioning whether more could have been done to protect Gabby. Some argued that the signs of an abusive relationship were clear, and that authorities should have intervened more forcefully. But at the time, the couple continued their journey, seemingly putting the incident behind them. After the altercation in Moab, Gabby and Brian continued their journey, but the tension between them remained. By late August, the couple had made their way to Wyoming, where they visited Grand Teton National Park. Gabby's last known communication with her family occurred on August 25th, when she texted her mother, Nicole Schmidt, saying they were leaving Utah and heading toward the Tetons. Over the next few days, Gabby's social media posts stopped, and communication with her family ceased. Her last Instagram post, dated August 26, 2021, showed a photo of her smiling and holding a pumpkin in front of a mural in Ogden, Utah. The caption read, "Happy Halloween," an oddly premature reference for the time of year. On August 27th, Gabby's family received another text message from her phone, but they later questioned whether Gabby had actually sent it. It was the first major red flag that something was wrong, unbeknownst to Gabby's family. This was likely one of the last messages sent from her phone, and by this time, Gabby's fate had already been sealed. The couple was last seen together on August 27th at a restaurant called the Merry Piglets in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Witnesses reported seeing Gabby and Brian arguing at the restaurant, with Brian becoming visibly agitated and storming out. Gabby followed him shortly after, looking upset. It was the last time anyone would see Gabby alive. In early September 2021, something deeply troubling happened. Brian Laundrie returned to his home in Northport, Florida, driving the white van that had become a symbol of the couple's cross-country adventure. But Gabby Petito wasn't with him. He arrived on September 1st alone. This detail would send shockwaves through Gabby's family, friends, and eventually, the entire nation. Gabby's family, living in Long Island, New York, was frantic with worrying. They hadn't heard from Gabby in days, and their text messages were going unanswered. They reached out to Brian and his parents, hoping for any information that might ease their concerns, but the Laundrie family refused to respond. This silence was deafening. On September 11th, 10 days after Brian had returned to Florida without her, Gabby's family officially reported her missing to the Suffolk County Police Department in New York. The van, registered in Gabby's name, was found at the Laundrie family home, but Gabby was nowhere to be found. The fact that Brian returned home without Gabby, coupled with his and his family's refusal to communicate, raised immediate suspicions. But what made things even stranger was Brian's next move. He vanished. Just days after Gabby's disappearance was reported, Brian himself disappeared from public view. Brian's parents later told police that he had gone on a hike in the nearby Carlton Reserve, a sprawling wilderness area near their home, on September 13th and hadn't returned. This only added another layer of mystery to the case. Had Brian fled? Was he hiding? And if so, why? Law enforcement, realizing the case was becoming more complicated by the minute, launched a search for both Gabby and Brian. While the nation waited for answers, the internet buzzed with speculation. Could Brian Laundrie be responsible for Gabby's disappearance? Or was there another explanation for the strange and tragic turn of events? Gabby's disappearance quickly captivated the country. News outlets from coast to coast began reporting on her case, and social media became a powerful force in the search for answers. Hashtags like #FindGabbyPetito and #WhereIsGabby began trending, and the public became invested in the fate of the young woman who seemed to vanish into thin air during what was supposed to be a dream adventure. The power of social media was undeniable in Gabby's case. Her Instagram account, which she had used to document her travels, was scoured by internet sleuths looking for clues. Her posts were dissected, analyzed, and shared widely. TikTok users speculated on what could have happened during her trip, and true crime enthusiasts on Reddit began connecting the dots. The story became viral, with millions following every development. Gabby's family, desperate for answers, also used the media to draw attention to their daughter's disappearance. They made emotional pleas for Brian Laundrie to come forward and cooperate with authorities, urging him to tell them where Gabby was. As the days passed, without any communication from Brian or his family, public outrage grew. While the search for Brian continued in Florida, the focus of law enforcement was also on finding Gabby. Search teams scoured the Grand Teton National Park and Bridger Teton National Forest in Wyoming, the last known location where Gabby was believed to be. Drones, helicopters, and ground search crews combed through the vast and rugged landscape, hoping to find any sign of her. On September 19, 2021, nearly a week after Gabby was reported missing, the search came to a heartbreaking end. Human remains were discovered in a remote area of the Bridger Teton National Forest. Authorities quickly identified the remains as belonging to Gabby Petito. The discovery confirmed the worst fears of her family and the nation. Gabby Petito was dead. The FBI took over the investigation and declared Gabby's death a homicide. But questions remained. What had happened to her? And where was Brian Laundrie, the one person who might hold the key to solving the mystery? With Gabby's body discovered, the investigation shifted into high gear. Attention turned to Brian Laundrie, who had now become the prime person of interest in the case. As law enforcement worked to piece together what had happened in Gabby's final days, the search for Brian intensified. The Carlton Reserve, where Brian's parents claimed he had gone hiking, became the epicenter of the manhunt. The reserve was vast, covering over 25,000 acres of dense swamp, wildlife, and treacherous terrain. The search was complicated by the challenging conditions, including dangerous animals, flooded areas, and thick vegetation. While the search for Brian was underway, the media and the public continued to speculate about his role in Gabby's death. Many believed that Brian's disappearance was a sign of guilt, but there were still no concrete answers. Could Brian have been the victim of a tragic accident? Or had he purposely fled to avoid facing justice? As days turned into weeks, frustration mounted. Despite the efforts of law enforcement and extensive search teams, there was no sign of Brian Laundrie. His parents remained tight-lipped, offering little information to investigators. The public began to question whether Brian's family was helping him evade capture. The FBI eventually issued a warrant for Brian Laundrie's arrest, not for Gabby's murder, but for unauthorized use of her debit card after her death. This technicality allowed authorities to officially list him as a fugitive, further escalating the manhunt. After weeks of searching, the nation finally got an answer on October 20, 2021. Human remains were discovered in the Carlton Reserve, not far from where Brian Laundrie's personal belongings had been found earlier that day. The remains were identified as belonging to Brian Laundrie through dental records. The discovery of Brian's body brought an abrupt end to the search, but left many questions unanswered. The exact cause of death was later revealed to be suicide. Brian had died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. Along with his remains, investigators found a notebook and a revolver. Brian's death added another layer of tragedy to an already heartbreaking case. The notebook recovered with his remains contained a written confession, in which Brian admitted responsibility for Gabby's death. According to his note, Gabby had suffered an injury while they were hiking in Wyoming, and he claimed to have killed her to end her suffering. However, many have questioned this explanation, believing that it was an attempt to shift the narrative. The news of Brian Laundrie's death brought some closure to the case, but for Gabby's family, the pain of losing their daughter was immeasurable. They continued to seek justice, not just for Gabby, but for others who have suffered from domestic violence. In the wake of Gabby's tragic death, her family established the Gabby Petito Foundation, an organization dedicated to helping families of missing persons and victims of domestic violence. The foundation has worked to raise awareness about the warning signs of abusive relationships and has advocated for reforms in how authorities handle cases of missing persons and domestic violence. Gabby's story also sparked a nationwide conversation about domestic violence and the role that social media plays in shaping our perceptions of reality. But behind the filtered photos and carefully curated posts, a much darker reality was unfolding. For many, Gabby's case became a symbol of the hidden struggles faced by victims of domestic violence. It served as a reminder that what we see online doesn't always reflect the truth. Her story touched millions and inspired people around the world to come forward with their own stories of abuse and survival. The story of Gabby Petito is one of heartbreak, tragedy, and lessons about the dangers of domestic violence. While her case gripped the world, it also sparked important conversations about the red flags often overlooked in toxic relationships. Gabby's story ended in tragedy, but her legacy continues to inspire change. Through the Gabby Petito Foundation, her family has worked to raise awareness about domestic violence, offering support to victims and families who find themselves in similar situations. Thank you for watching this deep dive into the Gabby Petito case here on Whispers in the Dark. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new episode. Stay safe, and remember, always trust your instincts. We'll see you in the next video.